Welcome to the Real Estate of Things podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Elliott, Mr. Leonard Rosen. Thank you so much for joining.
It's my pleasure, Dalton. I've been looking forward to this all day. It was either this or a root canal, and I chose this.
You chose the more difficult, painful option, so you're a
Yes, I did.
masochist. I love it. I've known you. I've been in this space close to 7 years. I've probably known you like 6 of those years, and have gotten to know you even better and better in the recent past. Quite the pedigree you have, right? You're the executive director of the National Private Lenders Association, and you're the CEO of the Pitbull Conference, really the market maker for private lending. This conference, really an ecosystem unto itself, is a couple of decades old, right? And you have to
20
start.
years in March, my friend. 20 years, March 2022.
Gosh, that is a real testament to what you've built out, and it's everyone I go to, I feel like more and more people there, so it just keeps growing, which is a beautiful thing. You have to start by telling me and the listeners the origin of the Pitbull nickname. You're Leonard Rosen, the Pitbull. Where did that come from?
Well, there's actually that's an interesting question, and there's actually two questions. One is, how did the name originate? And number two is, how is it that every photo that we take, I have my finger pointing? Okay, so I'll answer the Pitbull one first. In 1985, I was the 6 o'clock news anchor for the Financial News Network.
Mhm.
And it was a 1 hour program, and we covered everything from real estate to equities markets and so forth. But my very first, God, I remember it as if it was yesterday. My very first airing was at the Financial News Network studios in Santa Monica. And I was all nervous. I was a young 30-something-year-old kid. And, I get off the plane because I lived in Hawaii at the time. And I get off the plane, there's billboards at LAX, Leonard Rosen, the New Star Financial News Network. It went to my head. So I got there like on a Sunday night, and I had all day Monday to prepare. And back in those days, this was a live program, and back in those days, I didn't have an assistant. I would put things on the teleprompter, which would give me an idea of how to go through this 1 hour segment. And a 1 hour segment is 22 minutes of content per 30 minutes. So it was 8 minutes of commercial. So I had to come up with 44 minutes of content. Anyway, so I spent the whole day writing this out, so the teleprompter and so forth and so on. It was the first time doing it, and I'm getting all ready, and I'm fixing my tie and getting all ready. And the director said, "Okay, you all set, Leonard?" I go, "Yeah, I'm ready to go, baby." And he starts to count me down, and he goes 10, 9, and then all of a sudden it stops, and he says, "Teleprompter is out. You're going to have to go on your own. Three, two, one." Hello, everybody. I'm Leonard Rosen. Welcome to another edition of Financial News Network with Leonard Rosen. And I got through it somehow by the grace of God. And at the break, he walked up to me, and everybody's like scratching their head. And they go, "I have no idea how you pulled that off. Only a guy with a pitbull mentality could have pulled that off." And from that point on at the Financial News Network, I was referring, "Oh, Pitbull's here." And that's kind of how it started. So when Financial News Network was bought out by CNBC, I was offered to go to New York and work with Dan Dorfman and at that point Neil Cavuto, although he's on Fox right now,
Mhm.
and a few other guys. I don't want to live in New York. wasn't my thing, and so that's kind of how it happened.
Okay.
The second part to the question is, how is it that every picture has got, that I take has got a finger pointing?
Yep.
18 years ago, we sponsored Chris Lieben in the UFC. And Chris Liebman's look was that look, and I consider that stolen. And matter of fact, Chris lives in San Diego, and every time I see him, we go through that to each other. And that's how that happened. So it's kind of a funny story, but that's how it happened. So when I started Pitbull Conference, I was kind of like, well, how can I be very different and very recognizable? Um, and I came up with the name, and through the years, I've thought, well, should I change it? I've had people say change it from Pitbull to PMC or PB or what is something. And you
Yeah,
know what? I'm sticking it through to the end,
I
you
love it.
know, and I just kept it.
I love it. Wouldn't expect any different from you. I
Yeah,
love it. One of my favorite work photos that has been taken of me is you and I on stage in Miami when at my day job, Lima One Capital, we won the Private Lender of the Year award from Pitbull,
you
and
did.
we had to get the old finger point photo.
Yeah,
So
it's
I
great.
saw that one a couple of days ago as I was scrolling through LinkedIn, just being reminiscent of days past. I love it. So you have been ingrained in this space, the private lending space, uh, as deeply as anyone could possibly be in the last 20 years. So really take me back 20 years for perspective. I was 8 years old. iTunes had just launched and Enron had just filed for bankruptcy protection. So it doesn't sound like a crazy amount of time, but when you think about 20 years ago, it was a different world in the lending space, right?
Well, it wasn't private lending.
Yeah.
It was hard money lending. It was little pockets of what I called Harv and Marv. Harv and Marv would have a shop on top of like a pharmacy or a delicatessen, and the two guys that were hard. They truly were hard money lenders.
Yeah.
People have. I did an interview for the Wall Street Journal about 10 years ago, and they asked, why is it called hard money lending? Is it because it's hard to get, or it's hard money? Who knows? I mean, it's the second oldest profession in the world is lending, and you can use your imagination on the first. Back then, it was clearly hard money lending, and
Mhm.
that's what it was. And there was no association, there was no conferences, there was no glue that put anything together. I said, I was kind of semi-retired, I was 50 years old. I didn't need the money, but I needed something to do. So I said, all right, let's go with this. So I realized that there was a void in the marketplace. There was a void in the marketplace in terms of creating a marketplace for, at that time, hard money lenders.
Mhm.
And we started off with interesting beginnings. Uh, Two guys at a coffee shop in Pacific Beach, California, about a mile from where I live. I live in La Jolla. Pacific Beach is about a mile from here. And they paid me $395 each to sit in a coffee shop for 6 hours to teach them what hard money lending is and how it can be useful to them. That's how it started. I probably paid the server 100 out of that 395 just so we could sit there all day. But that's how it started. Back then, it was the Wild West. It was nothing like it is today, for sure. And then we had our first event. We did one in Los Angeles. I think we had 28 people and one sponsor. Then we jumped to two sponsors and like 40 people, and it just kind of grew from them. But at that time, make no mistake, it still was hard money lending.
Yeah.
Then the market shifted, and HELOCs were the big thing, home equity lines of credit, and was still hard money lending. And so that started the change from the commercial aspect of 10 or 12 points upfront, 18, 19% interest rate, to something that was like 4 or 5 points origination, 12% on a HELOC, 12, 14%. That was the product du jour at that time. And a company called Quality Home Loans came to me and said, "We know you're doing these small events. We're very big in the HELOC business, and we want you to travel up and down California and do the events for us," which I did. And I remember I said, "Now you're going to handle all the marketing and so forth." "Yeah, well, we're going to pack the house. And I remember doing an event up in San Jose, and I was at the Hilton. There's supposed to be a couple hundred people. I think 12 or 13 people showed up. And that night, I had Chilean sea bass, which I love, but got sick as a dog. And I mean, I was really sick. And I woke up the next morning and said, "How am I going to do this?" And I literally did like 2 hours in the morning. I went into the bathroom. I got sick, and I finished it. I don't know how I did it. I finished it. That's a little side story. Anyways, then came 2007, 2008 real estate crisis, crash, and so forth. And what happened, the interesting part was, it was really good that happened from my perspective and from the industry's perspective, because what we had in the business at that time, we're going back to 2006, 7, 8. I mean, these were basically used car salesmen that were selling HELOCs and whatever they could sell. They had no commitment to the industry, no commitment to growing the space. No, I mean, it was a job. How much money can I make and get out? And so
Yeah.
what happens when the real estate crisis happened? Um, it really cleansed the entire industry, which was a good thing.
Yeah.
And then we started to see paper guys who got clobbered through the whole real estate market and so forth. Do you remember those loans? Well, you were probably too young at that point, like 12, 13 years old. 125% loan. So if you wanted to borrow 100,000, they would loan you 125,000. Well, obviously that's not sustainable. Obviously, right? And that proved, so what happens is that the market went way left, and then it goes way right, and it kind of settles in the middle. And about 2008, 2009, the paper guys started to realize that this space was a good space to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we had our first wave of really legitimate people coming into the industry, into the community, and so that was really interesting, because I mean, I could see it, different kinds of people, guys with suits and ties that look like they walk out of Bank of America would come in, versus the guys wearing the Chicago Bulls jersey. No, seriously, the makeup of the audience changed,
Yeah.
and the dialogue changed. Then we had a very interesting, it was very interesting, and I think profound situation that happened. It was probably 2009. We did an event in Atlantic City at Caesar's Palace, and back then we were selling, just to sell seats, 2-for-1 seats, $395. Two people could attend. It's $175 each. I think we had like maybe 100 people back
Mm-hmm.
in 2009, and maybe 3 or 4 sponsors. But back in the cheap seats was John Beecham from Turek Capital Partners, Eric Abramovich from Rock,
Mm-hmm.
and John Hornick. And they were sitting in the back in the cheap seats trying to figure out what this is all about. And now things have dramatically changed, and Turak and Rock, and then Lima came a little bit after that.
Mhm.
They were the institutional guys. Wall Street looked at the space and said, we like the asset class.
Yeah.
That was a game changer for our entire industry. And when the book is written about our space 20 years from now, looking back at this era, I would I would say with a high degree of confidence that that particular event with Turak there, with Rock there, that is what changed the entire industry because there was nothing else. There was no other association. There was no other conference. I mean, yes, they had California Mortgage Association, things like that, New
Right.
England, Florida, But I'm talking about for private lending. You know, that was the game changer. And then from that point, it just progressed and matured into what it is now, which is a thriving industry that provides capital to communities in need, capital to investors to stimulate the economy, and a group of people that are in it for the right reasons. Now, of course, we all want to make a living, and uh, you know that goes without saying. But I'm talking about people of integrity, the Jeff Tennysons of the world,
Mhm.
the Eric Abramoviches of the world. I mean, I can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
And so the past 10, 12 years has been really interesting from my perspective to look at what has transpired. And I think in the next 5 to 10 years, there'll be bumps in the road like there is in anything. But I think I think this space is here to stay.
What do you think? I like the book comment you made. So, if we're in chapter 10 today, what does chapter 11 look like? Do you think our industry is going to be noticeably different 5, 10 years from now, or do you think it's going to be kind of just stabilized growth, or is there going to be anything drastically different?
I think there's going to be consolidation.
Okay.
I think what's going to happen, and we're already starting to see it, is uh, more large investors are going to come in and they're going to be buying the smaller, I'm going to say smaller, but the companies that are primed to be taken over. I think
Yeah.
that's what's going to happen. It's going to become much more institutionalized than it is now, and it's never been this institutionalized ever. So
Hmm.
I think that's going to happen. I think we're going to see, like for example, KKR is, behind Turak, for example. I think KKR will probably have a bigger hand in things, and hedge funds and large investment companies are going to come in and they're going to gobble up the smaller guys. I think that's what's going to happen. At least that's what I see. What do you think?
I agree. Yeah, and like you said, we're kind of at the in the early stages of seeing that happening. You had the kind of B2R and Jordan Capital a few years
Yep.
ago on the FOA, and then you go down the list, yeah, really within the last 12, 18 months of large groups in this space. You probably the smallest one was doing, I don't know, 500, $600 million on up to, at Lima one, $1.5 billion a year originator. We
which
were,
is which is crazy.
yeah. Oh yeah. When I got here, I started here at Lima One Capital 6 weeks after graduating college. We were doing maybe a couple million a month, right? It was not anything. I'm employee number 14, so we had 14 people in the office, and today
Yeah,
we have 250 people. And if we did a few $1 million in a month of production, every head would roll. That would be it. That's just not. We're in the well above that. You're punching in the 150, 170, 180 on up. So it's the growth just within the time frame I've been a part of it is absolutely insane. And listening to you over the years and today describe how this industry has changed to the point where it's really the old face of the industry is unrecognizable today.
Agreed.
Yeah. Uh, so I'm with you on that point. Let's talk a little bit about the NPLA, right? The National Private Lenders Association. So where did this idea come
Okay.
from?
All right. Now this could be a little controversial,
Okay,
but controversy is okay.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay. So Pitbull Conference was never designed to be an association. It was a market-driven business to bring capital providers, originators, lenders together for commerce. That
Hmm.
was the sole purpose of Pitbull Conference. We wanted to bring it from 30 people to 300 people to 600 people to 800 people. That was the growth of Pitbull Conference. And so it never was designed to be a voice of anybody. It was designed simply to be the market maker and allow the market to do what it wanted to do and go where it wanted to go.
Hmm.
And it was my job just to steer it along to make sure that everybody was was all together on it and
Yeah.
people were doing business. And about 4 years ago or so, I realized that there was clear, a very clear void in the marketplace. There was another organization that uses the name association, but they weren't an association and they know it and everybody knows it. They simply were not. And I'm not going to bring out any names or anything. That's up to you if you want to. But it was not an association. Anybody can use the word association in their name. And they did nothing from a legislative standpoint, from a code of ethics standpoint, from a best practices standpoint. It was just a word. And then I made the announcement that we were going to start the National Private Lending Association. And I'll tell you, it's kind of interesting. To my right is an orange chair in my in my in my office.
Mhm.
And I had a gal who was with me for 16 years, and I said, I'm going to start the National Private Lenders Association. And we had a meeting that day about the Pitbull Conference. We had an event coming up and so forth. I'll never forget it. And she was writing notes and taking things down. And I said, I'm starting a National Private Lenders Association, blah, 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 and here's what it's going to do. And she looked up and says, oh, that's nice. Now, how many sponsors do we have for this event? Just like totally didn't hear a word I said, or I don't know, didn't believe that I was going to do it, or I don't know, because people know Leonard Rosen, when he says something, he's going to do it, and it's gonna be successful.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that moment, and I won't say my wife was skeptical, but she tell me more. How is this going to work? How is it going to function? And what's the price and so forth. And I said it's going to be a hybrid type of association. It's not going to be a nonprofit because that doesn't. Those two words together are not in my vocabulary. Nonprofit or not for profit. What are you talking about?
I'm
What?
with you. It
Yeah. What are you
doesn't
talking about?
compute.
Right. Doesn't compute. But I wanted to make it an exclusive organization, association for the major players by invitation only. And yes, I mean, we are out always looking for new members, but they have to go through a whole process to become a member. It's a whole big thing. And that's something that evolved. And we'll get to that in a moment. I wanted to have a voice for the industry that I believe I created. And this other company that used the name association, which was a joke, in my opinion. It was a joke. You can quote me on that. It was a joke. Then they started to realize, oh, Leonard's doing something. So then they kind of like make it look like they're an association. The reality is this. The National Private Lenders Association was designed to protect the industry from overzealous legislators that could affect our space. That was the number one reason that it was started. So if that's the case, if what I'm saying makes sense, then it would also make sense for us to be registered lobbyists, right? Which we are. We're registered lobbyists in New York and New Jersey and Texas and Florida, and I can go on and on. And in addition to that, we invest $10,000 a month in professional lobbyists to represent the NPLA. So not only are we registered lobbyists, but we hire lobbyists on the outside to represent us. We don't do these stupid petitions. Oh, save the industry, sign this petition, that nonsense. Because you know what happens with those petitions? Legislators get it. Oh, that's nice. 160 people are opposing. Okay, and what are we doing for lunch? We're going to Chipotle today, or what are we doing? The work is done behind the scenes, and so these petitions, they're marketing schemes to show their members that they're doing something. That's what that is. And so the true reality is that hard work is done. We changed the law in New York. Governor Cuomo signed the law to protect the lenders in New York because of the NPLA. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. That is a fact. And so we have relationships in the governor's office. Now Cuomo is out, there's no governor and so forth. But the lieutenant governor we've become friends. He was a state legislator, and now we become friends, and we have financially supported him. And they're friends of the NPLA. That's how you get work done, not through a stupid online petition. So the NPLA is a true association designed to protect our members from overzealous regulators. That's how it started. Mm-hmm. Then, with the leadership of Jeff Tennyson of Lima One, we created the ethics committee. And then we created our best practices committee. And we created our legislative committee and our membership committee. So each committee, and well, you're the head of the ethics committee.
I am.
Yes.
Incredible honor. It's something I'm humbled about. And on the membership call a couple of weeks ago, threw down the gauntlet a little bit of, we had an incredibly active committee in 2021, right? We got the code of ethics approved, which is really kind of a guiding ethical light for this industry. And there is so much more to come and more to do around that. And there's fun competition between the committees. I wake up and I have three things on my mind, Leonard. I have Real Estate of Things podcast, Director of Sales and Customer Experience at Lima One Capital, and Chairman of the Ethics Committee of the NPLA. And I want us on that committee. We're all a family on the NPLA, but that competitive drive of I want our committee to be the most highly productive committee of that organization. And I think I'm not alone in that on the committee leadership side. And you pointed to the New York legislation. Really quickly, it became apparent on my day job at Lima One, the importance of this organization, because it was in the beginning when we first heard about the NPLA, and I know you and Jeff had talked about it a lot in the beginning. how is this actually going to impact? And it didn't take long before kind of the group you assembled was already making things happen to really protect the positive, fruitful interests of everybody in this space.
Well, here's the thing that I've learned. I know where my strengths are and I know where my weaknesses are. And one of the strengths I have is the ability to bring in great talent who knows more than I do. I have no ego when it comes to that. John Hornick, Jeff Tennyson, Stephen Lakessi, Eric Abramovich, and the young guns that are coming up, you and Justin Fordham and Corey Nimoto with Kiko Capital. So so I've been able to surround myself with people who have expertise in areas that perhaps I don't, and so they help guide me in my thought process. And like I say, without Lima One, without your efforts as well as Jeff Tennyson's efforts, I don't think the ethics committee. I think the ethics committee would have been in existence, but it wouldn't have the force that it has today. And we've dealt with some very uncomfortable scenarios with a couple of our members over this past year, and um, it was through the ethics committee and the way we handled it that I think was just exemplary. So look, we have to police ourselves. We have to be the
Yeah.
shining light, the shining force in the marketplace. If we police ourselves and make sure that we do good business, make sure that we conduct ourselves in a professional manner, treat our trading partners well as our customers and our employees and so forth, and we police that. I believe that that becomes the model for other associations and for other companies to do business in, and it raises the bar for everyone in the industry. Look, this is this is a great industry. It's a great business, and watching it grow is very exciting to me. And watching the new players come in, I'll tell you what really excites me. As I mentioned, you, for example, Corey Nimoto, Justin Fordham, the young guns that are coming up. Look, I'm going to be 70 years old in March. How much longer am I going to do this? I don't know. But they'll have to shovel me out, to get me out of here. But, being realistic, what we're doing now, if you really think about it, the knowledge base that we're acquiring to pass down to the younger guys that are in their 30s and so forth, it gives them a model to to use. We had no model all these years, right? There
Yeah.
was no model to go by. So now, as we pass it down and everyone gets a little bit older, and you hand over the reins, and that's the part that excites me probably more than anything, because if you understand the history of our space and understand where it was and where it is now, the young folks that are coming up the ranks, they can say, okay, all right, what have we learned over this era? What did we learn over that era? And where can we take it even further? That's what excites me.
Yeah, it rings, a word rings in my head of legacy. I think in the pre-interview call, you and I were chatting a little bit, and I shared with you. Uh, I don't think my network in this space would be a tenth of what it is today, if not for you, Pitbull, NPLA, that ecosystem that you've created. So I am incredibly grateful
Well, I do
for
have a
everything that
Venmo
you've built.
account, so if you'd like to make a contribution to that, and my birthday is coming up, I am accepting cash donations. But we can talk about that perhaps on the next podcast.
Particulars. Yeah, we'll square that away. We'll take care of
Yeah.
you. So real quick, I want to make sure anybody who's listening isn't familiar with Pitbull or NPLA. If you want to learn more about the Pitbull conference, it's pitbullconference.com, right,
Yep.
Leonard? That's it.
I'm
And
not here to
then for the
promote. Look, I'm not here to promote Pitbull Conference or NPLA. We're just having a conversation, and those are two businesses that are in my portfolio. But yes, pitbullconference.com and MPLAonline.com.
yeah, two great organizations. Do you mind if we go off the beaten path here? A couple of quirky
Sure,
questions up my sleeve for
sure.
you. All right,
Oh, by the
you,
way, by
Leonard.
the way,
Yeah,
is this the greatest mouse pad ever?
I didn't pick one up last time. In March, I'm going to grab one.
And
I can't think of
or,
anything better than see your smiling face on my
or
desk
we
every
go to
morning.
the little more conservative route.
I like that
You
too.
know,
We'll.
I want to just tell you a quick funny story. At the last event, we had the FBI sit on our cybersecurity panel, and it was a really,
Mhm.
I thought it was a great panel. That's what I thought,
Yeah.
anyways. And at the end, the FBI agent came over and he said, and we had this at our booth, and he said, "Do you mind if I take one? Because none of the agents back at the office guaranteed will have anything like that." I said, "Special Agent Lloyd, be my guest, sir."
Oh, I love it. Got to mix up the old
Yeah,
FBI
right,
field office
right.
vibe. There you go. That may be an issue. Now they know what Leonard Rosen
That's
looks
good.
like.
I hide from no one.
Uh, I love it. So one thing that was immediately apparent to me the first time I saw you, yeah, you dress well, right? Yeah, whether it's casual, dress up, dress down, you always look very crisp and clean, which I greatly appreciate. I'm a fan of it. So putting you to the test here, what's your favorite piece of clothing? Is there like one thing that just fits perfectly? You love it. Like this is 10 out of 10. If my closet burned down, this is the one thing I would go save.
Well, it's interesting that I had no idea we were going to go down this road. Um, it's interesting because, um, well, first of all, thank you for the comment, and I you understand that the event coming up is our 54th event. I buy
Mhm.
either a new suit or a new sport coat for every event. I have to literally take these custom made suits and take them to Goodwill. Um, it's just a thing. It's just a good luck thing, But I never wear
Yeah.
sport coats and I never wear suits in my daily life. I mean, I wear, you know, kind of Lululemon kind of stuff and so forth. Um,
Yeah.
so I would say I would I would say I'll wear anything as long as I look better than John Horner.
Oh man,
He
I
comes up
love
to
it.
me. He comes up to me at every event, and he goes like this, and he feels the fabric. Oh no, I got you beat here. I said, I said, you don't you you're wearing baggy pants like an old man. I said, you have to like wear the tighter pants. So,
I will say, I think Hornick is. I think he stepped his
oh,
game up the last few years.
he definitely
I
stepped his
was.
game up.
I think like maybe 2 years ago, there was an event. And I was like, this Hornick looks
Yeah,
different than
well,
the
no,
Hornick I remember. And
listen,
then
to John's credit, John lost like 25, 30 pounds and
he's looking
working out
good.
and playing golf. And now John looks great. I mean, John's one of those guys that he never had a bad word to say about a mirror or a microphone.
I love it. Yeah, if you're competing with Mr. Mayor John
Oh,
Hornick,
he's
you're
amazing.
you're you're in rarefied air.
America's
You're in a
mayor,
good
mayor
spot.
of New Jersey, America's mayor.
I love it.
Love John.
I love it.
He's
I
the
love it.
best. And quite honestly, that we're talking about John Hornick. John Hornick, he was on your podcast, was he
Mhm.
not?
He was.
Maybe you could send me the link to that. I'd love to see.
Yeah.
John
Absolutely.
is such a prince of a guy and made such a contribution to Pitbull's success. And, he's also general counsel of the NPLA.
Hmm.
There isn't anything in the world I wouldn't do for John. But I did get a holiday gift from him, which was some cookies, which I thought was a little weak, to tell you the truth. He had sent these beautiful, was it 2 or 3 years ago? These beautiful wine glasses. I said, "Oh, this is really nice," and they're all busted. They came, all the glasses were broken by the time wherever they shipped from to me. I'm still waiting for those to be replaced. But if Hornick is watching this at some point, tell him the cookies were lovely.
I will do that. I'll send Hornick the Rosen episode link, and I'll send Rosen the Hornick episode link, and we'll get everybody caught up on the relationship. I love it. Well, I got one
Yeah,
more question, and I know you're a busy fella. I'll let you get out of here after this. So I love to travel,
yeah.
right? That's the biggest thing that killed me during COVID
Terrible, huh?
was staying at home. No. Oh, absolutely horrible. We had a whole docket of trips planned for the year, and just canceling and all that
And you
converted
were shelter in
into.
place in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, we were not for a terribly long time, but there were a couple of months where you went out to the grocery store, probably 2 full months of like grocery store, and that was
Yeah.
it, in and out. Not as bad as other places, but it was a hit to the gut for sure. COVID became real for me whenever travel started to get
Yeah,
canceled.
yeah, for sure.
That's what
Yeah.
killed me. So so what's a destination that you've never been to that's on the list? If you had time to check off one more vacation spot that you had never been to before, any idea what that would be?
Oh, I had no idea we're going down this road, my friends.
I know I'm shooting to you blind here.
Okay. I will tell you this. I live 3 blocks from the ocean in La Jolla,
Mhm.
California. People come here to vacation. So I just don't feel that I have to go anywhere. But when I do, and
Yeah.
understand also, I lived in Hawaii for 20 years. And so, I've lived in some pretty exotic places. There's one place I go to every year that is so special. Now, you're asking me where would you like to go that you haven't been? There's no place I would rather go to than the Grill Jamaica. And
Yeah.
we were married there 25 years ago, but I've been going there for 35 years. And I get off the plane in Montego Bay, and everybody knows who I am. I feel very comfortable there. I'm kind of a Caribbean kind of a guy. I actually
Mhm.
gave serious thought to actually buying a resort out there a couple of years ago. And matter of fact, the owner of the resort said, I've owned this resort for 36 years. We've had 6 pirate attacks over those years. Literally pirates that come from the ocean. Yeah, yeah. He said, yeah.
Jeez.
He said, trust me, Leonard. He said, I'll sell it to you, but trust me, you don't want to buy it. And he just said, just because of it's been in my family for all these years, that's just why I keep it. But you know, uh, but on the 29th, Hornick, Tash, Abramovich, uh, um, we're all going to Jamaica the day after the event to Jamaica
That'll
for
be a
my
blast.
70th. So there's
That'll
there's
be
about
great.
16 of us that are going. But Jamaica is a very, very special place. I'll tell you why I like it. I love the vibe. I love the food. I love the music. You can drink the water. I'm not a Mexico guy. I don't go to Mexico. I mean, Tijuana is 17 miles from where I live. I go the other direction. I'm not a Mexico guy. Maybe some people are. My brother is. But the Caribbean and the Grill Jamaica is one of the most. Do you remember that scene, the bar scene in Star Wars years ago, the first Star Wars. I don't even remember the different characters on the bar scene. You're too
Was
young
it
for
when
this.
Han Solo walked
Yeah,
in?
right.
Harrison
Yeah,
Ford
right.
walked in there?
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yep,
the
yep.
grill Jamaica.
I
Yeah,
got it.
that's the grill
I
Jamaica.
like I,
I have zero desire to
I
go to Europe. I do think at some point we'll go to Israel because it's our homeland, and we'll probably do that. But I don't feel compelled to go anywhere other than Jamaica.
That's beautiful. You find a place and it ticks all the boxes. Just spend as much time there as you
Yeah,
possibly can in this life.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It just for us it works, you know.
I love
Yeah.
it. Beautiful, beautiful. Leonard, I can't thank you enough, really, truly, for carving out time on this episode. But I deeply appreciate everything you have done for me personally and professionally over the years. I consider you a good
Yes.
friend, and thank you for all you do.
Well, Dalton, this was my honor to be on. What is this? A podcast? Is that what this is?
That's what this
Okay, all
is.
right.
Yep.
To be on your podcast. It has been fun. We went down a couple roads I didn't know we were going to go down, and that's okay. That's kind of fun. That's cool. Look, it's guys like you that are in the marketplace that will make a big difference, a much bigger difference than I've ever made. It's people like you that step up to the plate and make it make the space better. So I want to thank you. I really enjoyed this, and now I'm gonna go out for Chipotle or something like that and take my wife out to lunch.
Beautiful. We will not delay you any
All right.
further. Leonard, thanks for joining, and thanks to everybody for
Thank you.
listening. Take care.